The first order of business would be a motion to approve the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, changes to the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Nate, second by Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. General public comments. Are there any members of the public that would wish to make a comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business to come before the board? New business, transcript update. I think Greg is going to give us an update about where we are and what our money is buying us at this point in time.
So yes, the functionality has been put on the server at the central office. I will present now what I got. I guess I cannot present a PDF for some reason. Wait, hold on 1 second. Bear with me. A lot of tabs, a lot of screens, a lot of stuff. Can everybody see that?
I just see a picture of you.
Oh. Okay.
I can see the transcript,
Yeah.
Greg.
I've got it too, Greg.
Oh, you could?
Yep,
So do I.
You see this, right?
yep. Phantoms, it
Just
says.
the whole bit?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Adobe Acrobat, I guess you can't, I can't display it because it's not a tab in Chrome. Anyway, so.
I can't hear you very well, Greg.
What's that?
I can't hear you very well. I don't know if it's just me.
So only a few people can see it? Is that what or am I the only one that can't see it?
I can see it just fine.
Okay. I'm just presenting my whole screen, so you should be able to see it. Am I not?
Now I can see it.
Okay, I didn't do anything, but okay. So each one, as you can see, this is just with some blank student data. I redacted some of the names. Each one of the schools has their own banner with their own kind of school colors and logo at the top. The committee just met today to kind of fine tune where everything went and what is being seen. And they're going to send that back to the development team. And it's a list of very minor changes and some aesthetic criteria. But this is what it is. And depending on what is included, there'll be an attendance section. It all depends on the options that the counselor uses when they are printing the actual transcript that time, what shows up on the report. Does that make sense? Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So while I guess it makes sense that the tabs they choose, I think that there should be some level of continuity across the schools as to what we're using and what we're reporting out on, particularly as we have students taking courses, let's say from other teachers in other buildings. There needs to be a level of consistency. I wouldn't anticipate that they look drastically different. Is that something we're anticipating?
That they would look different?
Yes.
They
That
don't look
different
drastically different. I mean,
Yeah.
this is only, the difference between the schools and what is being selected when you go to print out this test transcript. And it is a test transcript. It's just to make sure that the functionality, at least on the on the IT side and the presentation side. Is Lisa Madison on this call?
Yep, I'm here, Greg.
Yeah. Just to make sure that everything is in the right place and the data is showing itself correctly. But there is a uniformity in, for example, what the grading system parameters are, what shows up in what section. So that is consistent. So I'm not sure what you mean by that.
So
Yeah.
what I mean is when you say that, well, for example, when I'm looking at Proctor, it's looking different than when I look at West Rutland because West Rutland is listing star reports, star things like that. What my point is that there should be the goal to having a transcript like this is having a level of continuity and uniformity across all three schools. That's why we're doing it. That's why we're spending this amount of money to do it. So it's concerning for me to think that one counselor might decide to report on one thing and another counselor on something else. There needs to be a level of consistency. And I know that's not, you're just telling us what those options are, Greg. But those are things that when we talk about what the grades are going to look like and all of those kinds of things that need to come to the board, that we need to have discussion so that there is a level of consistency across the schools.
Yeah, Lisa, I think that that's something that the group has been working on throughout, was coming to a common understanding of what should be included in transcripts. And that the piece that we use the customization for is really around those personalized learning pathways. So if you have students who have very different purposes for having a transcript, that the transcript can meet the needs of those students. So for example, some students might be looking for a transcript that really highlights their extended learning opportunities, internships, work-based learning, because they want to use their transcript to apply for employment. And then there are other students who are looking for, post-secondary educational opportunities, who really want to highlight those academic features. And so now our transcript allows us to include all of those pathways, and for what will show up to schools, again, because we want it to look very professional, is only what's relevant to that student. So if you have a student who has a lot of work-based learning opportunities, for example, those will be on their transcript. If you have a student who has none, that section won't appear on their transcript, so it won't look like there's something missing. It will just show a comprehensive view of each student for the purpose for which they're using it. But yeah, I agree with you around the consistency in what each of the fields, the places where we have discretion on what goes in there. We have some conversations that we need to have about how we phrase it, what it looks like, how it's populated. We've started having some of those, but we need to have kind of like a style guide, if you will. It's kind of how I think of it, of what goes into each section and how it goes in.
Okay. And I guess I hope that there will be a deeper conversation with students and parents if there's going to be this grade of discretion with guidance counselors about how and what is put on transcripts. I think that's a concern, I will say. Based on all this information, what's the timeline we're looking at to have a transcript?
Well, it's actually functionally ready now. It is tied to all the student data, and it can spew out a legitimate transcript right now. I think there were some things that were passed on during the meeting. I had to bow out of the meeting, but Milt passed along a list that the committee wanted to bring back to the development team. We have not whatever he passed on back to them. We have not received a response in, but they seem to be on the whole. Would you say, Lisa, that they were fairly minor adjustments to the aesthetic?
Yeah, there were a couple aesthetics. There were a couple like little quirky bugs, like one school's class or rank was not calculating properly, and a couple little buggy tweaks. But that's very normal with developing something new and programming it. So, nothing major. It was pretty close.
I would say we're probably talking about days at this point, before the bugs are ironed out. Even though I haven't heard back from them, I find it hard that that it just wouldn't be just a couple of working days for the programmers to sort those kind of things out, if not right away.
So are graduates that from this school year going to have transcripts that look like this?
I mean, I have not spoken to any of the counselors. We have not done an entire test run of a whole class. So I can't say that for sure. That you would have to address it to them.
Yeah.
So when I'm asking what the timeline is, I'm asking, when is this going to be ready for us to use? And by using, I mean, there's no other use for it if we can't provide it to graduates.
Yeah.
I'm just not the person to answer for the counselors. I could say functionally that probably by the end of the week, we will have a functional piece of software. That's the only thing that I can say yes or no about.
Yeah, there's some data entry that needs to happen after that. All of those customized fields did not exist in Infinite Campus before this, so the counselors need to go in and enter those records, and continue to just test it and make sure that it's really got everything perfectly, because obviously you don't want it to have anything incorrect. So I'm not exactly sure how long it will take to go back and forth with the developers about changes. I know our committee is meeting bi-weekly and pushing as hard as we can to do things in between, and then check in and see if there's anything major that has to be done. So we're going to continue to march it as quickly and as effectively as we can. I haven't done a project like this with Infinite Campus before, so I'm just not sure about what it will take to wrap that process up. This is my first time working with the software developers like this.
Does anyone have any questions?
In a couple of days, we could probably get you an update together, and I could reach out to the counselors and say, barring all of the changes, what do you think your completion date will be, as far as doing some of the data entry work? And so I could get that back to everybody.
I guess I'd also like to know what the other information is that's going on the transcript. I mean, our star reports going on the transcript are, some of these that you showed had all of those numbers up there. Are those things that are going on there? These are pretty in-depth conversations we had prior to getting to this point about different components that we thought were important to put on there. And so from my perspective, I would like to know what it is that's being on there, because that's very different from current transcripts. And it's very different if you have a senior, what has currently been sent out. So I, for one, would like to see that, and would like to see how data is being shared on the transcripts. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments?
Yeah, this is Seth. For my, so the expense is we're fully bearing that at this point, correct? Of this? So,
Yes, it's paid for already, yeah.
okay. So, totally understand it's not you, Greg. So, Lisa, by chance, does it filter up through you for who the guidance counselors are reporting to and who can make that decision and say that? And Chris here too. So, I guess it's already there. Really, I don't see, I guess final transcripts can't happen until the school year is actually closed, or at least for the seniors. So I guess to me, it doesn't seem unreasonable for someone to step up and say, yeah, we're going to have this for the end of the year and just make sure that happens. I mean, I can't barring a tragedy that we don't know of yet, right? Greg, if you come back to us with, oh God, there was an IT glitch at Infinite Campus, then we understand it. But it sounds to me like there's no reason other than commitment while it can't be done.
Yeah, I think that,
we're definitely in the home stretch right now.
yeah,
It's
it's really close. Yeah.
This is in the home stretch. Now this is like, what kind of ticker tape do you want as it's coming down kind of situation. So I think it's going to be a very quick meeting. Probably, wouldn't you agree, Lisa, at the next committee meeting where we decide, okay, this is what we're rolling out and this is what we're going to do. And they will make their workload. And then I can pass that, or Lisa can pass that on to you guys.
Yeah, I expect that we're going to be, I mean, we've got a couple months still till the end of the school year. So that's a long time. I mean, we just saw it today and we already have information to the developer. So I think the group is really focused and trying to push this down and get it done.
So Lisa, Madison, this is Kristen Ross. Do you think by our May meeting, we could have a fully functional, fully edited, workable example to look at based on what the committee's feedback is for all the components that should be there that are uniform across schools? And then also aesthetically have a couple different examples for each of the different schools. And then, even have maybe one or a couple counselors, I don't know, either a statement from them, or they could come to a meeting if possible, or something from them that says, we love this is going to be done, and we're going to use it in June or not.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can come back and present on, anything at that point in time. It really is about how long the back and forth with the developers takes, and what kind of data entry capacity that they need to have. And if they can, get those things done and we can test a few versions of it, I don't see any problems with that.
So I think we should plan on that for the May meeting, that you come back with the transcript showing us what it's going to look like, what's going to be on it. Particularly, it's particularly concerning as a senior parent because transcripts have gone out to schools and to different things. So if suddenly now you're incorporating a multitude of different things, I for one would like to see that, and I'd like to make sure that the data is correct. So can we put it on the agenda for the May meeting that you will bring what it will look like for a student that's going, let's say, on the employment track after high school and a college bound transcript, so
Yep.
we can see what those are going to look like.
Sounds good.
Great. Any other questions? All right, we'll look forward to seeing those in May. GRCSU school calendar, Chris.
It's pretty self-explanatory. This is just the proposed calendar for next year. We have met with the association, with association leadership, reviewed it with them. They are in agreement with this calendar. So it's just more, it's here for you to take a look at, and if you have any concerns, questions, to respond to that. If not, we'll vote to approve. Thanks.
Are there any questions?
Have there been?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kristen. I think that was Kristen.
Oh, this is Kristen Ross. Sorry, I can't see everybody, so I'm battling the having enough bandwidth tonight. It's the last Monday that I have have multiple things on at the same time. So my question about the calendar is, or comment/question, is the early release Wednesday, is that necessary anymore? We talked about last year not having that. And then COVID hit and we were like, let's keep everything the same because it'll mess everybody up because there's so many other things that are going to mess everyone up. You know, obviously fall COVID will still be an issue, but in a different way. So that's one question, comment. And the other thing is, I've had recently, and maybe it's because of COVID and missing so many days, but many parents reach out to me saying that 2 half days for parent-teacher conferences seems like kind of a lot of burden for parents to cover. And would it be possible to do like evening parent-teacher conference on a Thursday and then have one whole day of Friday off so that parents have to find one day rather than 2 days? I feel like other districts do it that way, but I don't know why, if there's a particular reason we have 2 half days in a row to do that. So that's 2 different pieces of early dismissal questions.
So I'll answer those in reverse. So with regard to the 2 half days of the conferences, that is something obviously I think we would have to work with the association on as well. Shifting from that, I think that's what's just been traditionally done in the past, where based upon the calendars that I've seen. So in my short time here, that's if the board wishes to revisit that, I'd have to meet with the association, discuss that, take a look at a possible potential shift as well. And then with the Wednesdays, 2 o'clock, we understand that it is a bit of a concern for childcare, and but we also look at the work that we've been able to get done with regard to professional developments. We have a lot, this year. I think as we move back to a fully in person, we look at our education recovery plan and all that entails, and the different actionable strategies and plans that we've put into place. That are going to need this professional development time with our staff to continue to look at data to make informed decisions moving forward. So.
Okay, all of that makes sense to me. I just am hearing a lot of concern about after such a year where students are out of school so much, and remote learning is not the same, as we all know. So just when the data is statewide and probably nationally is showing that students need to be in school, how can we balance that with also the teacher need for professional development time? So that's kind of the balance that I'm not sure a short day on a Wednesday gets them all parties involved to that. And it's not just about childcare, because obviously parents know ahead, they can schedule that and that's fine. And people are used to that. But how useful is a few extra hours on a Wednesday versus maybe a whole day in another week, where they could travel across schools or travel to somewhere else if needed to do some kind of workshopping. So I don't know. I'm just trying to think of keeping students in school as much as possible in a year where a lot of kids are going to start from behind already.
Yeah, in fact, I would even wonder if perhaps the state would even lean in that direction when it comes down to the recovery plan as well, when there's literally hours available within a traditional student day. And if somehow I was providing feedback that, we were looking for extra time, if that was the case, maybe the recovery plans will be taken exactly as offered. But that is an idea from that side too. And just to follow up my side, I just was curious about hours of the day and if there's continuity there, if that's a building by building decision, et cetera. Yeah, for example, early dismissal at 2 p.m. Is that going to be 2 p.m. every building? Some buildings are 1:55, some are 4:50, 2:05, et cetera.
Right. I mean, we would vote for continuity across the buildings, particularly across the teacher workday. Yes.
Chris, this is Kristen Whitman. I just wondered if the student day, is that at all different going into next year?
In terms of start and end times or the length of
Yes.
the student day? No, we are not looking to change the length of the student day.
I guess I was just wondering if the continuity was across all schools in that regard. So for example, in the past, I think Poultney on the early day, it went to 1:45. And their school day ended at 2:45. So are all schools starting and ending at the same time next year, or are those school by school?
It's school by school. There are certain concerns, obviously, with busing and other issues that impact that. But as we look at the length of the student day, we're not looking to shift or adjust that. So we'd be looking at what our schedule was like in last year and looking to replicate that moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Nate, your thoughts?
Well, I was just thinking about, it should be a longer school day, I think, in my opinion, with all that's happened the past year. So I would be in favor of actually extending the school day. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I think it should get done later. I like 3:30 later. If you want my honest thoughts, that's it.
Okay. Tom?
I think they should be done in the evening. That way you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday nights, whatever makes it easier.
Tom, are you referring
Jessica?
to the, sorry, Tom, just to clarify, were you talking about the teacher conferences or the actual school day?
Teacher conferences and school day, that's all. We can say whatever we want, but the association dictates that, correct?
Well, there is a master agreement, yes, that we have in place. So if we would lengthen school day or change things, we have to revisit a lot of things. So that we currently have a contract in place with our staff.
Jessica?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, do you have
Yes,
any
hi,
comments or thoughts?
I think the night would be better than having them, in through the day. I think it would be more convenient for parents for one, maybe for the teachers that, yeah, I'm in agreement with that, more towards the evening.
And what about the Wednesday early dismissal? What's your feeling there?
Well, I don't really have a feeling either one way or the other on that. I think I'm kind of I think it was Nate who said they should probably extend the school day just because everything that's been going on. So, but that's my opinion on that.
Okay. All right. Did I miss any board member that didn't share their thoughts on these two subjects? So
This
what
is
is
Kristen
the
Ross.
pleasure? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, this is, I just wanted to add or ask Chris one more thing. This is Kristen Ross. Chris, so I understand that we've already sort of signed this agreement and it is difficult to go backwards at this point. It would be a lot of backpedaling. But we are going to be negotiating a new contract like soon, right? For the next round, is that correct?
We'll be looking to start negotiations, yes, soon for teaching staff. We're trying to wrap up ESP currently for this year.
Okay. So is this something that we can be upfront on in the next round? Because it just seems odd to me that a union gets to, and I'm a union member, I'm actually a member of that union now, but the union gets to decide what the school calendar looks like rather than the district. It just seems odd to me.
You're here.
And maybe that's just how it's always been done, but it doesn't seem correct.
I want to correct. I don't necessarily think that the union decides the calendar. I think as part of our master agreement, when we do the calendar, that we then provide a copy of the draft to the union for any sort of comments, concerns, feedback surrounding the dates and what we have. So I think as we look at possibly extending the school day, I think to be honest, there are I've worked in a variety of school settings, where we've gone till 4 o'clock in after the afternoon. We've started at 7:15 in the morning. Event various things. So there's a lot of research that supports various lengths of school day, things along those lines. But as we look at if this is just this board's wish to extend a school day or to change things, there are a lot of moving parts. And like I said, I can go back and I can speak with the association, but I think as we move into negotiations, there are no guarantees about any of this as we go through. So
Christy has her
Yeah.
hand up.
Hello. I just wanted to kind of go back and explain the history of the early release days, just because I've been in the district since it started. So we had data to show that we had many substitutes in the building. Lisa, I think you were part of the conversation way back when we were looking at our daily reports. Teachers were out all the time, and having a full day sub is obviously detrimental to students. We know that, you know what I mean? There's lots of activities, paper and pencil activities. And so the way we problem solved it was to have an early release day for professional development. Therefore, teachers were not missing the entire day, multiple days. And as administrators, we were very conservative on allowing full day PD opportunities just because of our sub. And so therefore, we tried to have staff schedule it on those shortened days. And that's when we provided our PD. So that is the history of why we had the early release. We did find that teachers tend to do PD on those days, and it was less impactful for students. So it's not just like a day that we picked randomly to have like free time for the teachers. It was very thoughtful, and it was based on data of substitutes. Just so people know the history, it's not like teachers sit and do nothing during that time. It's very valuable, very productive. And I think it will be very detrimental if we take that away, because teachers will find days to take off outside of those times. So that's just the history of the last 9 years of why we've done it.
Yeah. And back to that, I do agree with the early release on Wednesdays. Maybe not the 2 o'clock time, but yeah, an early release so they can do that. Absolutely.
Okay, so I would to thank you for that explanation, Christy. And I would suggest that at least maybe for also looking at not this upcoming year, maybe the next year, maybe we want to relook at some of that data package like you had the first time and take a look at it. Actually, absolutely a great point. Definitely something had to be done. 1 day a week was the decision. Perhaps that's not necessary. Maybe 2 days a month does the trick. Maybe one literal half day, maybe a noon day once per month does the trick. But just trying to come up with some other options. That's that. And just for clarification, record purposes, I think I want to make the following statement as well, and Chris definitely jumped in on this as well. So for sure, it is not a union or an association or anything making a decision and dictating. At the end of the day, this is an agreement. This is a collective agreement that everybody has made together. So we have all decided for that to be the case, for that to be the calendar. Of course, with any negotiation, there are points that can be favorable one side versus the other more so, and they may not be our favorite points, but at the end of the day, we have all collaborated to make this decision. So yeah, it is an agreement upon everybody involved in the negotiation that have come up with that. So I just wanted to be very, very clear to make known that we understand that, the board knows that, not to misrepresent by some of the statements before that might have sounded a different way.
This is Kristen. I'm also just wondering if there are concerns about how that time is being spent, and I think that it is probably being spent well. Would that be something that could maybe be brought to the board, so that, and I think that is done to a certain level, but maybe if we're seeing that there's some concerns by the board, that maybe being a little bit more transparent about how that PD time is serving our students, I would love that.
Yeah, and I agree, Kristen. I think that's on the principals to provide that information to the board or to whoever if there's a concern on how the time is spent. I wholeheartedly agree with you.
So what is the pleasure of the board moving forward with the school calendar? Are there requests you would like to make from building administrators with respect to how PD is being addressed in buildings on early dismissal, how that is translating to student data. Would you like to see that, let's say, perhaps October? So we have time to look at it for this year, even though this year is a unique year, and prepare that and put that into some kind of spreadsheet that principals can talk about. Do you want an idea at monthly meetings what kind of PD is being discussed in each building? What are members looking for? Or do you want to make a motion and accept Christy says they could share their monthly calendar of what PD is happening in buildings. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, this is Kristen Ross. I would say that, I think the principals have in the past been able to sort of highlight some, what they're doing or what the teachers are doing. And I think that's great. If it could be tied more like Kristen Whitman suggested to, the benefit to the students, I think that would really hit it home that this is really justified. And I don't want to take away professional development from anyone. I definitely get how important it is and that it is necessary. It's just there's a lot of parents who, especially after this year, are, itching to have their kids in face to face, right? Obviously. So I think that would be great to sort of maybe highlight that a little bit stronger in maybe their principal reports or on occasion. I don't know that it has to be definitely monthly, especially because I would assume some of the PD is sort of ongoing over time. And I do remember when we merged that having regular PD time for learning new software and different management systems when we were, getting new software and new systems down was really important. And I know there's always new ways to improve yourself professionally that will come up. But when, at least from the Poultney side of things, when we first discussed having sort of these regular early release times was to get, staff, get those new systems under their belt and get them used to that, and having regular workshops so that they can learn all these new systems. I'm hoping some of those systems aren't new to them anymore, although I understand things change and you don't learn it all in one sitting. So I would say, in answer to your question, Lisa, for what the board would like to see, is before we get a draft like this draft, that I'm fine with approving. But I feel like if I personally want to suggest something, it's kind of too late because we have to go back and do a whole agreement with, I don't know. It just seems like if the board can have some input in like August or something before this draft comes out for the following year, before the agreement goes in, I think that would be, I don't know, I just would feel a little better about it because I feel like for the last 4 years now, or post merger, by the time we see this calendar, at least I see it as a board member, it's kind of a done deal. So I know it says draft at the top, but anyway, I'm just wondering if we can move the timeline for when we see the draft. I think next time we negotiate an agreement, I think I would suggest that would be really helpful.
So what I'm hearing is that, well, let's start with this. If we could have building principals share PD that's happening for the rest of the year in their principal report for May and June, and to get an idea and maybe just a reflection of what's happened this past year, highlighting big topics perhaps that you've hit on. And in October, perhaps we could have a tie-in from the PD to student data. I know that some of us have reading issues, math issues, things like that, tying it, looking at scores, seeing, if the things we're doing tied to the growth. And the third piece I'm hearing is that rather than seeing the draft here in April, perhaps in March, or February, if we could see kind of what the school calendar is going to look like, and to think about as we move forward here with negotiations, looking at maybe a different option. Maybe we do 2 Wednesdays a month or something like that rather than every week. And Seth has his hand up.
Yeah, just real quick. I think it's a great idea for next meeting for the what was basically a yearly summary. So what happened this year to some snapshot and what's still coming up. And then I would suggest and certainly open if someone has a better, more pertinent idea, but something like as we roll into this on a regular basis, that we're looking at what happened last month and what's coming up over the next month. So that's kind of always looking at what just happened and what's about to happen, and then we just roll that forward month to month to month. Unless it's
Okay.
a longer calendar and we can see something like 4 months at a time, then hey, that's great.
Does that seem plausible from building administrators, incorporating that information within your monthly reports?
Yeah, and I would suggest that we invite maybe on a rotating basis teachers to the board meetings just to present as well. You know, it could be Proctor High School 1 month, the elementary school. I don't know. I just think back in the day when we had teachers present, I know boards are very busy. However, I think it's really important just to hear from the teachers and what they're doing in the classrooms. So I don't know, maybe just look to, and sorry teachers if I'm throwing you to do another thing, but I know my teachers love to present. So, you know, just on a rotating basis. So Proctor Elementary School presents once a year or something with their teachers. You know, I don't think it's too much to ask, but I think to get kind of, I would say, a more feel of a community as the board with everybody. That's just my personal opinion, whether you agree or not. But I don't know. I like to hear from the teachers for sure. So
well, and I think in the past we've also had students present, and I think that that's a really good practice if we could, incorporate that more going forward, because it gives the kids a great opportunity, number one, but number two, I mean, that's what it's all about, and it's coming from the kids. So.
And I think that's certainly our intent once we are no longer meeting like this, but it's just difficult. And, as we said here right now, people are bouncing here and there. It's very, not the most fun to continue to meet like this. It's difficult to have the conversations, but certainly I think as we start to meet in person with students, what's the board's feeling about going back and having those kinds of presentations?
So I think even if the presentation is something like a 10-minute presentation, honestly, from my opinion, if there was one building every meeting to give a 10-minute presentation, and then maybe there's 5 to 10 minutes maximum dialogue after, feel free to use a number like 7 minutes as the target for presentation, right? Then I think it's absolutely no problem. And to speak about that community feel, 100% agree that we are the board and they are the teachers until we get together and talk and realize we're all humans all the time. So yeah, I think that's absolutely great.
Sure, I think so. Do we want to talk about doing that for the remainder of this year, or do we want to start doing that when we meet, let's say, even in July when we start a new year? And I say that because, and not to be dismissive, but we have a lot of things still on our plate that really haven't come to any resolution about finishing this school year. And it would be nice just to be able to kind of finish this year and start fresh then in July, in my opinion. But we can do whatever the board's pleasure.
Yeah, I like that idea, Lisa. Just, we don't have to pick it up right now. I mean, I love the ideas from Christy and Kristen of having teachers and or students share. Another alternative is if they can have time, record a little thing that we could watch too, if they can't come either to this in person or, quote unquote in person, or when we actually meet in person, because sometimes you can't get to the actual meeting. So even have a recorded thing would be, I think would be great, whatever people are willing to do. But I'm fine with not starting it till sort of July or August.
So why don't we plan on starting in August, and at the July meeting we'll set a schedule and we'll let Christy go first. And yeah, Joe said whatever school is hosting. The problem is we don't know where we're going to be July or August, if we're still going to be like this or not. So let's plan on starting in August, and we will, it might be great just to go ahead and pre-record them anyway, particularly with students. Sometimes that's easier. And start there. And Christy's happy to take August, I see. So she has a lot of planning time, and so we'll expect something spectacular come August.
It will be
And we'll move on.
Sorry. Lisa, I was just going to say, perhaps in July we could get just like a calendar for, the month of August and September or something like that, just to get a snapshot before schools start presenting.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Seth was asking for. If building principals can kind of do, this is what we did, in June to wrap up the year. This is what we're looking at, when we go back August, September to start the year. So if building principals can give us a yearly summary of what's happened this year, and then starting in August, if they can give us a summary or give us an idea of what they're doing, PD, let's say it's really starting in September. August is really going to be like orientation and those kinds of things. And then we'll do that flip flop like Seth suggested, and we'll have presentations at the beginning of each meeting with 10-minute max and 7 minutes for questions. All right. Does that sound? And in that, tying it to how we look at data, I think that's the important component.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the draft calendar then, so that we can move on.
Okay.
This
Motion
is
by
Kristen Ross, by the way. Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Seth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item we have is a leave request, and you should have had a letter in your packet about that. Are there any questions on that?
So this is just a switch, someone just switching roles. Is that what I'm understanding?
So this is a person that was at the elementary school and is now moving to the high school as a reading interventionist. And they're taking a leave of absence that would begin July 1. And it is a grant funded position. Who is the overseer, I guess, of, or has the oversight of interventionists? Is that by building administrators, or is one person from central office?
It's a building administrators.
And do we talked about job descriptions and things like that at the SU meeting, but is there a standard of what the expectation is from interventionists? And I understand that this is an SU level and this person is becoming an SU employee, but it sounds like they're being building based, which is, something we've talked about before, like having interventionists move across buildings. So there's enough students in one building just to have this interventionist be based there for the entire day without moving.
Yes.
And hey, Lisa, am I correct here that we are only, let's say, We only have jurisdiction over approving the leave of absence. The second half of this letter is actually out of the Quarry Valley hands, correct? So yes. So
Yeah. Well,
there's
they're
even
becoming an
theoretical.
SU employee. Yeah, they're
So
becoming an SU employee.
is there a theoretical? Oh my God, it's only a theoretical possibility that we can agree to the leave, and the second half of this would not technically pan. That would be at the. I mean, it's out of our hands, correct?
That's at the SU level. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're potentially. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. All right. That's the only
I just
relevant
think it's
decision for us to
important
make. Yeah.
that
Okay.
we're hiring a lot of interventionists, and I realize they're grant funded. But even at the SU level, we haven't seen anything that shows what the expectation is. And as we've just seen with transcripts, when things are building based, there's not always that continuity across buildings. And so it would just, and I'm happy to address this at the SU meeting. So the issue on the floor at the moment, or the request on the floor at the moment, is
Lisa,
Lisa,
can I just
yes.
say that the issue with continuity, that could be something we also address in our education recovery plan, that we can look at accountability measures and what that might look like across buildings across the district as well. So these are things which we will discuss and we will review as we move forward with that plan.
Great. So the request is a leave of absence for the 2020, 21-22 school year.
So I have one more question. Sorry I'm still not clear. So this person's requesting a leave of absence to not be a second grade teacher at Proctor Elementary for the time written here, and instead will be filling a grant funded position at the SU level as a reading interventionist. But the person's not quitting their job, they're just leave of absence. So that means we can't hire a second grade teacher to fill that, or is this person going to be doing both things? I'm just not clear of why this is not a
Kristen, we can hire a second grade teacher, and Christy is actually posted for the position and is collecting applicants right now.
Okay, so why is this instead of a RIF, why isn't this a leave? Why is this a leave of absence? I'm not opposed to the idea. I just want to understand the sort of language here.
Well, it wouldn't be a RIF because we're not reducing a position, because there is still a second grade teaching position. So
okay.
And I think the biggest piece is that if I'm speaking out of turn, Chris or Lisa, let me know. It's a grant funded position. So the teacher is interested in this position. She's looking to get endorsed as a reading interventionist and then looking to pursue this long term. However, given it's a grant position, if for some reason the funding isn't there that following year, she can retain her position in the district. Because otherwise, if she quits as the second grade teacher right now, we had this situation with another teacher who became a coach or integrationist, whatever. If for some reason the grant is gone, she loses her job, and she's been here years in the district. So now she has 1 year to get her endorsement, everything else, and then if she chooses to stay on in this job, that's the chance she takes. Otherwise, she can come back as a classroom teacher, not necessarily in Proctor or wherever, but she comes back into the union as a classroom teacher. That's the way
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That clarifies. I knew there must be some reason that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Christy, for clearing that up, and Chris.
We posted it in my school was a 1 year classroom position because that's what we know for sure. So it does unfortunately limit the pool of candidates because when you only know it's going to be a 1 year job, who wants to leave. However, I do feel we have several good candidates that we'll be interviewing this week. Lisa, you look confused by my comment.
Well, I'm surprised it was as a 1 year job because a leave of absence means within the district. It doesn't mean within your building.
I'm not sure I understand.
So she's taking a leave of absence. She can come back as a classroom instructor. It doesn't necessarily mean at Proctor Elementary School. So I guess I'm surprised it was listed as a 1 year. I think that does limit your candidates, so.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just based on past practice on the way the positions have been in the past, when they've been a 1 year leave, that's what we've always
Yep.
been asked to do. So that's why it was posted that way.
Okay.
Are there any contractual obligations that the teacher would have with their current contract that would preclude them from being able to basically be covered under a different so they'll kind of be under two contracts at the same time? Isn't that correct? Because aren't they still legally our employee at the district while they're on a leave of absence? Everyone's shaking their head. Does anyone have some evidence for me to just make me feel better?
Well, she's leaving Quarry Valley and she's going to be classified as an SU employee. The leave of absence is to, I'm going to say, hold her position within Quarry Valley should she want to come back within or by the end of 2022.
Okay.
To me, that's like if someone has another explanation.
Let me just, so if I understand that correctly, so that means that the current contract that she's under as a teacher will actually be canceled, for lack of a better term, but there's some sort of an option in the agreement that you don't, I don't know, I'm going to air quote, lose seniority until 12 months have passed, and is it 12 months or is there something else there? I'm just going to focus in on the fact that this is more than just one school year. So I just want to make sure that the leave of absence is given for the appropriate amount of time, not 12 months. Because if it's 12 months,
so
then
the leave is technically beginning July 1. And yeah, she's going to do it here for the last couple of months of school. She's going to transfer from Quarry Valley to SU. She's already started this week over here because this came to the SU board prior to coming to Quarry Valley. It came a little backwards. And so what we're saying is we're just, as Quarry Valley, we're going to allow her to move. And then her leave is technically going to start July 1. It will start for that full year from July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022. Because that's how the contract year runs.
so for the sake of formality, should we have a request for leave of absence for the remainder of 2021 school year and the 21-22 school year? I guess as long.
Well, it says beginning. I'm requesting a leave of absence for my current beginning on Monday, April 19th to the end of 21-22 fiscal school year. That's what the letter says.
As long as we're all okay with it covering these months. Sorry, I'm honing in on minor details, but just want to make sure that things are buttoned up exactly as they need to be.
Yeah, so for 46 days, she's going to be under an SU contract here for the end of the year and out of Quarry Valley.
But she still retains her seniority.
Right, for that year until June 30, 2022. And then if she wants to continue on, she can continue on, but the leave and any holding has ceased to exist. Now you're out there on your own in the job. Seth has a question.
Yeah, sorry. What? So basically, does the process work that we approve the leave for whatever we agree upon, and only at the end of that agreed upon time does the seniority become lost? It's not like a mandated 12-month thing like I used in my example. Okay, yeah. That being the case, then I understand everything's cool. No more questions from.
Okay, so is there a motion? Did you have a question, Tom?
Yeah, I'm confused. So she won't be working for us, but she still gets her seniority. Correct?
She gets to hold her place. She's like in a holding pattern
Without working.
for 1 year in Quarry Valley while she's working at the SU level.
Tom, she's going to be paid through Quarry, she's going to be paid through the SU, not through Quarry Valley. She is going to be working. She is working.
I get that, but she won't be working for Quarry Valley? Is that?
Correct. She's going to be working as an SU employee through the grant.
Her seniority.
Correct. It's just the way the contract works.
Does that seem wrong, or maybe it's just me? Just asking.
We've done this.
Yeah. We've had teachers, I think, actually, didn't we have a teacher from West Rutland actually that left and went and studied or did something else, and we gave them a leave of absence for a year. So, I mean, we've done it a few times. We had a classroom teacher, Proctor Elementary School, that became a coach, and we gave her a leave of absence for a year and then once her time was up, then she resigned her position and she's an SU employee. So is there a motion to accept Sloan's leave of absence from Quarry Valley beginning April 19th, 2021 to the end of the 21-22 school year?
This is Kristen Whitman. I'll make the motion to accept the leave of absence.
Is there a second? Anybody?
Yeah, sorry, Kristen Ross. I just hit the wrong mute. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed?
Tom.
Motion passes. Oh, Tom is opposed. Okay. Moving on. Is there any other new business? All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes, the March 15th, 2021 minutes. They were in your packet. A motion would be in order to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Seth. Second?
I'll second it.
Second by Nate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of warrants. Warrants are passed to you through your email. Questions about warrants should be sent directly to Lewis. A motion would be in order to approve the warrants. Jeez, it's tough getting a motion tonight, folks.
I'll make the motion.
This is
And now we have a plethora of motions.
Kristen Ross will second that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Superintendent's report, Chris.
Thanks, Lisa. A few items to go over. So each year, the GRCSU is asked to nominate 2 staff members to be recognized as outstanding teachers in the state of Vermont. These teachers are traditionally recognized at a nice ceremony up at the University of Vermont. However, due to COVID, that ceremony was shifted to a virtual ceremony this year. So the 40th Annual Outstanding Teachers Day was held last Wednesday, April 7th. It was a nice live stream. It was, fitting way to pay tribute to the outstanding teachers in the state of Vermont. But on behalf of the GRCSU, I would like to congratulate the 2 teachers from, particularly from Quarry Valley, which were Christina Kerber from Polteny High School, and Courtney Elliott from Proctor Elementary School. Well done, Christina and Courtney. This is a well-deserved honor. We're proud of both of you. Our winter sports season has concluded. I would like to thank all the building administrators, athletic directors, coaches, players, and parents for all their hard work, cooperation, in making this season a memorable one. It was trying in many ways, but like I said, at the end, we were able to kind of get through that. Spring sports will be starting up. We'll have more on that at the next board meeting. But I would like to congratulate two teams, Proctor High School boys and Proctor High School girls, the basketball teams who both won back-to-back state championships. It was a great way in the season for both of these teams. So congratulations to them. I do also want to mention and congratulate two other teams. One, the West Rutland boys high school varsity basketball team, a great season. They made it all the way to the VPA state championships, where they lost. It was a close one, a buzzer beater to Proctor, but it was a great run, great season. So I just want to congratulate them. I also want to just a special mention and congratulations to the West Rutland girls. COVID has had many impact on a lot of individuals this year, and I think what happened to the West Rutland girls basketball team this year they got kind of a tough way to end their season. But in the quarterfinal game, one of the members of the opposing team tested positive for COVID, and as a result, West Rutland had a large number of their players who were not eligible to play or could not play in the semifinals. And I want to give credit to Coach Serrani and to the girls that did play. They played their hearts out. It was a tough contest, but they ultimately fell just short. But I do want to say to the girls team was having a phenomenal season and having a great season. That I do feel for them. I think in the Quarry Valley feels for them. While it did not end the way they wanted to, I just want to congratulate them on a great season. And to Coach Serrani and to the girls, just staying positive. So I just wanted to just mention that. So COVID-19 surveillance, we had our last surveillance testing, and I say last because we've been informed by the state that it is our last due to the large number of educators in the state of Vermont who have received their vaccinations. But we had our last surveillance testing back on April 7th at all of our schools. And as we've had in the past, we had 0 positive results from that test. As I said, every month, it is just a snapshot of what that day looked like at that particular time. But it was a good way to end, I guess, when we look at surveillance testing. But the state has not, like I said, they've ended surveillance testing. There is some discussion about what that may look like moving forward. But when we have more information, we'll let you know. We also had the vaccinations. So we had, the GRCSU was assigned. There were 2 dates initially. March 15th, staff had the opportunity to receive the Pfizer vaccine, and March 22nd, staff members had the opportunity to receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. In addition to that, we also had staff members who chose to, look for outside opportunities, whether it be at the drugstore, Hannaford, or another clinic, to receive their vaccinations as well. The one issue that we had, and we tried to avoid this, and I know I spoke with members from the state, they were apologetic about this, but on April 5th, due to staffing concerns, we did have to shift to remote, and that was because a large number of our staff across not just the Quarry Valley, but the GRCSU went to receive their second vaccine on that date, and we felt it was best just to shift to remote for all parties, just a less stressful day, and also staff members were able to receive their second vaccine without any sort of stress. We did have 2 schools, Proctor Elementary and Polteny High School, who had to shift to a second day of remote just due to staffing concerns. The testing window for the SBAC has opened, and that began here in the 1st of April. The window this year has extended to the end of the month. Most of you should have or will be receiving information from your building level principals with regards to testing schedules and what that might look like. I know we are trying to, students who are remote, trying to get them back in the building, try to arrange that. It is a bit of a headache for, I think, for the, the staff and for the administrators in doing this. But I know the state firmly believes that this is an important piece of data as we look at the recovery plan and moving forward, just kind of a baseline data for us. So the ELA and math assessments, it typically is given for students in grades 3 through 9 for the SBAC. And then the Vermont Science Assessment, which is the VTSA, is typically given for students in grades 5, 8, and 11. As I mentioned earlier about the, you may have heard about the AOE Education Recovery Plan. This is a mandated plan that the state has provided for us. It's done in different steps or phases, but this plan will help our schools, our district, and the SU chart a path is what education is going to look like for the spring, as well as for next year and the immediate future. There are different phases. We are currently in phase 1, which is the initial needs assessment. We're collecting a large number of data for the 4 recovery areas, which are social emotional learning, mental health and well-being, engagement and truancy, and academic success. So this data that we collect will assist our schools and the district and the SU in interpreting areas of student needs and strengths, developing some preliminary ideas as to how best to address these student needs and support all learners, and determine as to whether or not we may need additional state assistance in some of these areas. In addition to the material that we collect and the work we complete in phase 1, it will set us up nicely for phase 2. And during phase 2, we will be doing the following: generating specific action strategies, building-based and district-based, to address those needs identified in phase 1. We are going to identify specific resources that we may need, and obviously we have a good amount of ESSER money to use across the SU this year. There's 3.6 million over between now and the end of 2023. So we look at the resources that we will need to implement these key strategies, as well as develop steps that we'll take throughout the course of this spring and next year to implement and evaluate the overall effectiveness of our strategies and actions. This is for administrators and teachers who've been around for a long time. It really is it's a normal process that schools and district growth should kind of undertaking, which is just as a classroom teacher, it's just the curriculum cycle where towards the end of each year you evaluate the effectiveness of the curriculum, you look for areas of strength, areas of need, and you start developing a new curriculum or revised curriculum based upon those the data that you collect. And I think that's something which we are going to be engaging on here as an SU and with our schools and our teachers in terms of what we need to do to really meet the needs of our learners moving forward. All right. One of the key components of, well, I shouldn't say one of the key components, but one of the areas we've addressed was, and everyone received a note about this last week, but we are looking to shift back to 5 days of in-person. I know that this is obviously contentious. There are, strong emotions on all sides in terms of, hey, it should just be a full day, a 2 o'clock day, half day. Some people say leave it as is. But we look at our education recovery plan and look at the majority of the respondents from the families that we felt that moving to a 5-day, in person, where that Wednesday would be a half day in person, and then we move forward from there. So it allows us to kind of transition. It also helps with SBAC testing schedules as well. So there are a lot of components to that. And I know, like I said, I've been talking with people about this during break. About our needs beyond this, but it's something which we feel we need to do. We need to get the kids back in the classroom. We also want to be respectful of our teachers because we still have a remote option in place through the remainder of the year, and it's one of the reasons why we looked at the half day as opposed to a 2 o'clock day on Wednesday, was the fact that the teachers still have an opportunity to implement, to plan, to collaborate around remote lessons in their classrooms, because most of our teachers still have blended in person as well as remote at the same time. So they still have that additional planning time to continue with that model through the remainder of this year. All right. We already discussed, the calendar, and then 2 other things that I have. School meals were provided for any interested families during the April break, based on some guidance we received, as well as federal monies. We are planning on offering meals for our families over the summer as well, similar to what we did last year. So we'll be working on the plan, what that might look like, and building administrators will be disseminating information to their families shortly. The last thing that I just want to touch upon is, I know that everyone saw the Vermont Forward plan, the 4-step plan that, as of July 4th, that, things will be, hopefully, they look to back to normal, whatever that may be. But the Vermont Forward Plan also has, raised a lot of questions about what graduations, what proms, and end of the year ceremonies may look like. And I know that as we look at step 3, which is May 1st, there is a lot of flexibility in terms of outdoor gatherings. And I know that's something which the principals discussed about moving to an outdoor graduation, which would be a little less problematic than doing an indoor, because indoor you're measuring per square footage and who's vaccinated, who's unvaccinated. If you do have an outdoor, like I said, step 3 gives us up to 900 people, which for some of us, the whole town could come to graduation. So it'd be a nice thing. But so we are looking at outdoor graduations, but we're looking to meet with building principals next week to discuss this more in detail and then start releasing information. The question around prom for high school is something which we will be discussing. I know that the notion of an indoor prom would be very difficult for someone, but we are looking at ways to celebrate a rough year and provide some opportunities for our students in a safe manner. So we will be looking at if prom is a possibility and what that might look like, or some sort of end of year gathering along those same lines. So we will have more information on that as well, particularly when we receive further guidance from the AOE, which hopefully will be within the next week or so. Are there any questions? I know I threw a lot at you, but.
And then along with those conversations for graduation and prom, trips, field trips, I'm guessing that'll fall under that, in that conversation as well.
I'm currently working on a parent letter and hopefully have that out to staff and parents, which basically breaks down just in bullet points, just some of the major or key changes that were provided in these strong and healthy starts. And one of those bullet points also addresses the field trips moving forward through the end of the year. What do I look like? So I'm going to meet with the admin team on Wednesday. We'll take a look at this, and our goal will be to get it to the staff Wednesday afternoon, and then to the parents either Wednesday night or Thursday sometime. But it'll be just kind of highlighting, like I said, the key changes, as well as I do know that as of today, April 19th, that kids age 16 or older are eligible to receive vaccinations. So we will just have some information on that as well for any family that may be interested in having their high school age child receive a vaccination. But like I said, just as we've done with the teachers, we respect that it is a personal decision, and we'll provide information, and then we will let the families do with it what they may. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on to principal's report. Christine.
You say Christy?
I did.
Oh, okay. I thought I was going first in August. Oh, just joking. So just let's see. We had our parent-teacher conferences remotely. We usually have very high attendance. They were really successful. They were student-led, 2nd grade through 6th grade still, which is pretty amazing remotely. A little bit challenging, but the kids stepped up definitely, and parents were able to see, different progress and things like that. So that was very successful. I'm happy to report as of next week, we'll only have 4 remote learners. We're able to get everybody back in. So that's really exciting. So hopefully we can get those last 4 by no pressure on families. However, it's really exciting to have everybody back in person. Definitely. I'd like to give a shout out to our 4 Winds volunteers. So we've been able to have 4 Winds all season long outside through the winter, through everything. Our volunteers, they don't get paid for anything. They get trainings. They go to monthly trainings. They come in and they give some great opportunities to our students. So I would definitely like to thank Ellie Moriarty. She's our coordinator, and she has done a phenomenal job on seeking volunteers throughout the year. They've been great. We are going to be offering a summer academy. We've had academy before through Tapestry, but we're really pushing it for all students are going to be eligible free of charge. And we're hoping to have our program 5 days a week for at least 4 weeks, and having our own teachers as the tutors. So I'm super excited about that. I do have 4 teachers that have not volunteered, they'll be paid, but have stepped up to teach. Oftentimes, especially given this year, summers are, a little time to unwind. However, I have several staff members that are stepping up, and hopefully we can offer an enrichment piece of it as well. having some my librarian's going to come in and do some literary circles with them, and then we're going to maybe do some art projects as well. So I'm super excited about putting a nice program together, which we haven't been able to do. We get to use some ESSER funding for that this summer, which is super exciting. Our pre-K had a pancake breakfast using some homemade syrup. So the couple of the teachers in the classroom, typically the kids go to the sugar house and they collect sap and things like that. They weren't able to do that. So the teachers did it at their home and then boiled the sap and brought it in for maple syrup. And then the students made the pancakes in the classroom and things. So that was really fun. Let's see. Working with 6th grade families on their yearbook and what our promotion ceremony will look like. As Mr. Sell has stated earlier, we'll have more details at the next board meeting for that. This week, we'll be starting the interview committee for the classroom teaching position that we have open. We have, I believe at this time, 5 candidates that we're interviewing, possibly 6. So Lisa's going to be the representative as the board member on that committee. And like Mr. Sell said, we're working on the recovery plan and implementing what we think is going to be best to help students recover social, emotionally, and academically from their losses this year. Does anybody have any questions about Proctor Elementary School?
Sounds good. Thank you. Jay.
Good evening, everyone. I put quite a bit in my principal's report, but I want to thank the community for their support. I want to thank Superintendent Sell for that nice shout out for both of our boys and girls basketball team. You know, it's always good to go against Proctor, and as I've said before, while the competition is robust, at the end of the day, these boys and girls are also friends with each other. So great competition. Just wish we could have had a little bit better success with the ladies. They were very resilient. I cannot emphasize that enough, especially as a parent. We went ahead and I listed that we went ahead and had a West Rutland spelling bee. Normally we would do the Scripps spelling bee. They canceled the Vermont version of it this year. So we decided to go ahead and do it anyways. And it was slightly problematic simply because of everyone having to wear masks, including the MC of it. But we were able to broadcast it through our huddle system. Congratulations to Cade Barassa in 5th grade. He actually won it for the 2nd year in a row. But a good sign is that we keep growing our spelling bee exponentially. So we look forward to seeing that. And we had almost 30 people participate this year in it. So that's a very healthy number. Tons of work around what is called the UDL, Universal Design for Learning, which is something that Quarry Valley and GRCSU is looking at for secondary instruction, which is differentiation across the classroom, doing a lot of work around that. Our continuous improvement plan continues to make good progress. We've got lots of presentations to the faculty on restorative justice, the MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of support. Lots of things that are coming for next year. We haven't let COVID really get in our way with all this good work and just continue to soldier through this. I mentioned in my report that we have some hiring committees that are already up and running. If approved tonight, we will have our head custodian position filled. I have and thank you to Tom Callahan, who served on that committee. I have Michael Mosier serving on our teacher hiring committees. We're meeting this week to do our first set of interviews. We've actually had a healthy number of candidates reach out to us through School Spring, and it's exciting to see 15 to 20 folks interested in West Rutland School. So that is actually really reassuring to me and very positive as we go through this hiring process. Lots of other stuff we're planning. You know, Christy hit on a lot of things that we're doing. Chris mentioned a lot of things that we're doing also. Graduation, we've already ordered a 40 by 80 foot tent. We're moving full steam ahead with an outdoor graduation. We've had some brief meetings with both Proctor, Poultney, and West Rutland, along with the superintendent, to make sure that we're on the same page and thinking about the same thing. And I know Chris said we're gonna talk about that again in the next coming weeks. So, and spring sports has started. We had a ladies softball game on Saturday of this past Saturday. And for the first time, I think in 3 years, we're gonna have a West Rutland baseball team. And they have their first game, I believe it is either Thursday or Friday of this week. So it looks like Friday might be a better weather day. So I'm hoping it's Friday. But a shout out to all those players and coaches for their hard work. It's wonderful to see baseball back at West Rutland. And track and field also attended their first meet down at Burr Burton over the weekend as well. So lots and lots of great things going on at West Rutland School. Did not know if I could answer any questions for folks.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Joanne?
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, everyone. We're really excited to be able to offer a limited one-act play this year. We know that the community members are really proud of the student performances, and Ben Curtis came up with this idea because we only have to, we auditioned for and chose seven or eight students. The name of the one-act play is It's a Test. I think it's very comical. And it's one that will be streamed on our local live streaming situation huddle, and that the date is yet to be determined. Yes, as Jay pointed out, our spring sports are clearly underway. We're looking for some good weather so that the teams can play appropriately outside. As with the other high schools, we're in the midst of planning an outdoor graduation. Really excited about the fact that we can have an actual in-person graduation this year, and do a little bit better job of celebrating our students. We have begun, tomorrow we're beginning our SBAC testing, and we'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks and trying to prepare our students to do the best that they can do. We're also in the process of interviewing for and selecting 3 positions at Proctor High School for next year. One is a school nurse, one is an English position, and the other is an anticipated, which is probably not anticipated anymore, science position. And I want to thank Jen McLemore for taking the lead role on this, because she knows how important it is for a new principal to be in charge of the team that she's actually able to hire. So thanks for taking the lead on that, Jen. If you've been by Proctor, you've noticed that we have some changes in our landscaping, and that's caused a little bit of stir in our community, but I think when it's all said and done, it's going to look beautiful. We actually had some bushes called hues, and they had poisonous berries on them, and it was seen as a safety issue for at least a couple of our students. So we're in the process of developing and deciding on the final plan for landscaping. The bushes have been taken down, but because of the frozen ground, we haven't been able to get the roots in all cases, but we hope that that's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, and that we anticipate that the campus is just going to be beautiful by the time graduation rolls around. I also included a report on the consolidated federal, or the continuous improvement plan, some of the PD that our staff is doing, and some of the activities. So I'm happy to answer any particular questions about that. And you will be getting a much more full report about professional development for the next month. Thank you.
Any questions for Joanne? Jeez, my fingers. All right, moving on. Kristen.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everybody. There is a lot in my written report, but I'd like to just update you. The number of remote learners has decreased significantly. We are now down to only 14, with 3 more to be returning on May 3rd. May 5th, excuse me. Summer school, our plans are in the works as well, and we're looking at morning academic program with a half-hour break for lunch and a 2-hour outdoor enrichment program. So once I have more of the details, it will be sent out to the parents. I do have staff on board, so we're working together to iron out all the details. Polteny Elementary School received a grant in the amount of $10,000, and we will be using it to purchase a social emotional learning curriculum called 7 Mindsets. And I would just like to thank the Norwood Foundation for supporting us in our efforts to address the social emotional needs of our students, families, and staff. And once we get more into the program, I will definitely have some of my students and staff share their learnings. Our grade configurations for next year are going to stay the same, grades 4 through 6. We're still going to have a straight 4, a 4-5, and 2 mixed 5-6 classes because our numbers are ranging from 24 to 33. So that would that'd be the best way for us to configure to make sure that the class sizes were equitable. And I would like to congratulate the 3 top winners for our magnificent mask competition. Out of the whole school, we narrowed it down to a certain number per grade level, and then we picked the top 3. All kids went home with a tablet, and Marie Kraus was in 3rd place, Ned Whitman 2nd place, and Jack Alinsky 1st place. So I'd like to congratulate them.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Kristen? All right, Joe.
Good evening, everybody. We came back today and we actually did our first, we did a Monday morning meeting virtually today, which was great. It's, for those of you who don't know, oh God, for probably the last 8 or 9 years, we start every week off with bringing everyone into the gym and doing a Monday morning meeting, which is usually student run. Obviously we weren't doing it this year, and we decided, suggested that we start one up again and we could just do it virtually. So we did that today, and I think it was a great start to come back after break. And you know, it's hopefully we're going to finish off the next 8 weeks doing that as well. So I think, you know, talk about getting back to what we typically do. Shout out to a couple of our Stafford kids. We had a handful of our students that attend Stafford that medaled, including one that did the gold medal in the Skills USA. I don't know if they're doing nationals or not this year, but you know, even with that, they had to do it at Stafford this year. They couldn't go up. Usually they all get together, but they all had to do it at their home bases and submit their stuff. But, you know, congratulations to our kids doing well outside. Like the other 2 high schools, you know, we've talked about graduation. We always plan for outside every year. Hope that it, you know, last year we did ours at the elementary school because of the numbers issue. So hopefully we can do it at the high school again this year. But, you know, some things that come out of this is we started a new tradition. I think, you know, they really love the parade. And I had kids asking me, you know, beginning of this year, if they can at least do the parade. So one way or the other, hopefully Mother Nature cooperates, but we could do something like that with our seniors this year as well. Hoping to get together with some staff members and some seniors and start really, you know, kick the can down to after April break and told them that we could start talking about that now. Our Wednesdays with our professional development, we've been doing the universal design learning, and actually this week we have our 3rd jump rope. Our staff has not been using jump rope for the grading because we're still doing a 0 to 100 scale. So we've been using Infinite Campus for our grading system, which we're switching over to jump rope next year. So the coaches have been working with our staff, and I think this Wednesday is our 3rd. I think we have one more in May as well to do for the jump rope training. So we've been using at least 2 days a month with the UDL and the jump rope training. You know, and I think we have, you know, I've been signing a lot of early college admissions things for our students, for our juniors this year to look at early college next year through both Castleton and CCV. So I think that's, you know, it's a blessing and a curse, I think. You know, it's great that these kids, you know, we hate to see them leave our building, but it's great that these kids are, you know,
our teachers can be proud that we prepared them enough where they can leave their junior year and still be successful when they go into, you know, and jump out and do that early college. So like I said, you know, double-edged sword, but it's great that we have a number of kids that are doing that next year. You know, wrap up what everyone said. Our winter sports, our cheerleaders placed in the state competition this year as well. So a shout out to them. And our spring sports started today. I don't know how our softball team did, but Tom Haley was at the game. I was just following him. And our baseball team blew a 6-3 lead to Proctor. I think Proctor came out and won it 7-6 or something like that was the final. So, but they're outside playing. I don't think they were in the gym once. So it was great that they could actually start the season outside and get a lot of stuff out there. But like when we had our opening meeting with them, it was like, you guys didn't have a season last year, but you're the only team to get in a full season this year. So, you know, hopefully we can finish the year out strong. We don't have to worry about anything with that.
Great, thank you. The score is 9-8. I just
Was it
got
9-8? Yeah. I knew it was
Yeah.
a one-run game. I wasn't quite sure what the final
Yeah.
was.
I think they're all excited just to be there. First game,
Yeah.
a lot of anticipation. All right, thank you all very much. Moving on to personnel, we have a list of contract recommendations. If everybody wants to pull that up, so that's available. For our professional staff, we have Lloyd Daly, Proctor High School teacher, Patricia Ryan, Proctor High, June Math Academy, and Alex Kennedy, Proctor High, June Math Academy. Are there any questions about those contract recommendations? All right, moving on to the next. These are FY21 expiring contracts recommended for FY22 renewal. Jamie, and I will butcher the last name, as a West Rutland 1.0 reading interventionist. Hannah Bennett, West Rutland 1.0 middle school science teacher. Ethan, Polteny Elementary kindergarten teacher. Drew Kutcher, Proctor High School art teacher. Bradley Olson, Polteny Elementary music teacher. Any questions about those? Could we have a motion to approve the professional staff as presented?
This is Kristen Ross. I'll move to approve the professional staff contracts as presented.
Is there a second?
Kristen Whitman, I can second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to support staff. There's a list of support staff for FY22 interim union support staff contracts. Is there any question about any of those? And then at the top, we have Carl Soriani, West Rutland head custodian, FY22, salary to be determined. Is there a reason why we don't have a salary in there? And is it a salary or is it an hourly position?
Lisa, it is a salaried position. At least that's how it is currently set up, as a salaried position. And I do not have that information. I would be looking to central office for that.
So, Lewis, is that something you have or that you can provide to us?
Oh, this would be a non-union position, supervisor position. So usually that salary is set by the board and the superintendent.
Okay, so that is a topic to go into executive session for later. So could I have a motion for the FY22 interim union support staff contracts? And obviously the one that is yellowed out or highlighted would not be included.
This is Kristen
I will
Ross.
make a
I will
motion
move to
with the-
approve that. Sorry, Nate, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead, Kristen, and I'll second that if that's okay with Lisa.
I
Okay.
move to approve the FY22 interim union staff, except for the person that's highlighted there.
Okay, seconded by Nate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The I was for approval. Sorry, I was late.
Okay. I'm just jumping to the opposed. All right, motion passes. Extracurricular. We have Sierra Thornton, Proctor High School basketball coach, moved from junior high to 5'6". Michaela Taylor, West Rutland 7'8" softball coach. David Bartlett Jr., West Rutland 7'8" baseball coach. And Craig Hunt, Pulteney High School 7'8" softball coach. Any questions about any of those candidates? Hearing none. A motion would be in order to approve the extracurricular contracts.
So moved.
Motion by Seth, second.
I'll second that, Lisa.
Second by Nate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We have 3 resignations in your packet this evening. James Kelly, Cassandra Papandrea, and Erica Tyler. A motion would be in order to accept the resignations.
So moved.
Motion by Seth, second.
Kristen Whitman will second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Finance, Lewis, solar agreement.
Good evening. So the solar agreement, this is coming back from last month. Last month we talked about this for the Proctor schools. They got a solar project back about 5 years ago as part of a performance energy contract. The warranty was 5 years, which is now up. They have reached out to offer us an extended maintenance agreement. It's an annual agreement for $1,900. And so last month we talked about the possibility we have options. We could either renew this every year and be fully covered, or we can take a year off and look at some sort of cycle where we have like maybe 1 year coverage and then 2 years off and another year coverage. I have spoken with Johnson Controls, who was the designers of the project, and their opinion was there's not really a need to have full coverage every year, especially for a project that's still sort of new. But it may be beneficial to have some sort of coverage, like every third year, so that you can get that monitoring and that maintenance on the array to make sure that it's still functioning properly.
Questions for Lewis?
So my recommendation would be to do a 3-year cycle, so we have coverage for 1 year and then 2 years off. And so if everyone's okay with that recommendation, then I will implement that.
Is there anyone that's not okay with that? Hearing none, I would say that that is fine, Lewis.
Okay. The next item is for lawn care for the Pulteney schools. We had a 3-year agreement with Lakes Region Lawn Care. This is Pulteney has been using the same vendor for almost 15 years. They are very happy with the service. They were looking to renew the contract. It's a little bit of an increase of about $700. but this is the first time they've increased their rates in the last 12 years.
Does anybody want to see that put out to bid? I feel that I, in particular, should ask that question for Pulteney.
So the total contract is $6,500 for the season for both schools. I think given the cost and the excellent service, it doesn't warrant going back out to bid. I think they're both reasonable. The cost is reasonable and the service has been excellent.
Any concerns from anyone? Are you looking for a motion, Lewis, or just consensus to go forward?
I'm fine with either.
I believe you have
This is
consensus.
Kristen
to move
Whitman.
forward. Oh,
Sorry, really quick question. So we had switched this lawn service, correct? And now are we returning back?
No, that was Proctor that we talked about. I think it was the last meeting. It might have been 2 meetings ago. So we put Proctor's Lawn Care out to bid last year.
Right.
And there wasn't a board consensus on which vendor to choose on a permanent basis, well, on a 3-year basis. So we used one of the vendors on a trial basis for the rest of the season.
Right.
The school was happy with the service, so we renewed their contract for 3 years. And I think that was maybe 2 meetings ago. So this is now Pulteney we're talking about.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
And this is the same, a 3-year contract, Lewis?
Yes, it is. The same rate for the 3 years.
Okay. So hearing no objection, I'm going to say that Lewis has consensus to authorize the contract for Pulteney Lawn Care for 3 years with the current lawn care company at the rate of $6,500 a year for both schools.
Okay, thank you.
Good to go. Thank you. The next meeting is May 17th. We've already put a few agenda items on, and hopefully we'll have a better idea of where we are about some things here for end of year. Are there any subjects or items that the board has that they'd like to put on the agenda? All right, moving on to policies. We have 4 policies. This is the second read, so we'll need a motion. If there's no objection, excuse me, we could do a motion for all 4 policies. The first is H5, Title I, Part A, Parental Involvement Policy. The second is D5, Alcohol and Drug-Free Workplace. D6, Drug and Alcohol Testing of Transportation Employees. And F5, Student Drugs and Alcohol. Are there any concerns, changes for these 4 policies? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to accept the 4 policies as presented.
So moved.
Okay.
Motion by Seth, second by Nate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Is there anything else that needs to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, we will need to move into executive session for a personnel contract matter, so we can excuse everyone with the exception of Chris and Lewis.